There are so many problems, and this is another problem that we have to address. I'm interested. I'm involved in sort of like thinking about the future settlements on the moon, which people, again, a lot of people don't know. This particular aspect also falls under the Outer Space Treaty, because individual countries are the ones that authorize the launches of these kind of satellites. So it's the US, in our case, that is responsible. And if we look at it from that perspective, you go like, okay, well, there are other countries as well. What are they doing? Well, just as a perspective, right now, there are more than 16,000 active satellites.
At the Amherst kitchen table of, at least for this semester, UMass astronomer Salman Hamid, Mr. Universe, the head of Kainaat Studios. What are we going to talk about today, since you're keeping this under wraps?
No, it wasn't. Well, I thought there are enough problems in the world right now that we can always add a few more.
Okay, cool.
And so, these, if you see movies, science fiction films, especially about dystopian films that start with sort of like, a company talking about all the wonderful things it's going to do, all the sort of like, it's going to resolve all of the world's problems and things like that. That's usually the first half an hour, and it starts with an ad. And then, of course, we end up with sort of like, complete disaster, right? And you can go through that. Like, Jurassic Park is a good example of that, but there are also other films which are much worse examples of that. The reason I'm mentioning that is because it's getting tiresome in the sense that we have to keep on fighting, but the issues that we have to fight are constantly increasing. And the next one I'm going to talk about, and I want to bring it up because, again, people don't know this is happening. And this is about a company called Reflect Orbital. We mentioned that, we actually talked about it a few months ago. And just yesterday, actually, some of my friends, so we have a school group from way back, we were in school together in Pakistan, and so we have this WhatsApp group, and so one of them actually sent this little short video for that. And in the video, it actually explained how amazing Reflect Orbital is going to be, because guess what? It can extend daylight hours. Meaning to say, at night, you can actually have full moon brightness or brightness even of daytime. In fact, of noon as well.
Well, let's talk a little bit about how they do it before we get too far along in this conversation. It's called Reflect Orbital. Almost the answer is in the name of the product.
Yeah.
But
so it has large mirrors. It has about 60 by 60 feet. Foot mirrors actually that actually are going to reflect light
in outer space.
In outer space, so they are in low Earth orbit.
Low Earth orbit.
And what they plan on doing is that they can actually direct reflecting light from the sun into an area which is about 3 miles wide, circular area, so a diameter of about 3 miles, and they can direct it in that space. And so, and their pitch is that, it's going to. It can help you with search and rescue. It can help, of course, the military, to extend that.
Like if they're giant magnifying glass, and you're the ant, and they want to fry you from wherever they're at with sunlight.
Right, and then, but then sort of for, of course, construction sites, which is great because if your working hours, for example, doesn't extend, they can help you extend those, for example. This dystopian stuff, we cannot just make it up, right? This is exactly how they actually frame it. The construction sites at nighttime, actually, you can actually get light. But their big thing is, and this is where, to a certain degree, the beginning of a bad dystopian science fiction film comes in, where they say, they are going to actually reduce our dependence on fossil fuel, because these solar farms, panels that can be, of course, used only during the daytime. You can actually pay them, and they can direct the sunlight, and so even at nighttime,
you generate solar power 24 hours a day, no matter where you are.
And so, hence, the fossil fuels is problem check, done, right? So, and the way this video that I was sent a little bit was also sort of like, and then you can also have an app. You can reduce or increase the brightness of how much you want. I mean,
Just like on your phone?
Just on your phone, exactly. And you have sort of like, you just have to pay them, sure, like, for an hour, whatever, $5,000 or something like that. And you can get your area lighted up. And of course, nothing is going to go wrong. So the reason why this would have been fine if it was in the realm of science fiction. This would have been fine if there was some idea. And ideas like this have been around for a long time. In fact, I think the first time such an idea was proposed was in the 1920s. So theoretically, yes, people have suggested that, and then I think in the late 1990s there was a Russian billionaire, I think, or something like that tried it for a few minutes or something like that, and then they tried it again and it didn't work, and so on and so forth. The reason why I'm bringing it up now, unfortunately, is that it is actually looks like it's going to happen because FCC, so this is the Federal Commission for Communication.
The same one that won't let me say the F word when I yell it out like that, or else we get in trouble.
And the same one that also sort of like, pressured, for example, Colbert and other sort of like, or at least for the ABC, actually, with
Yes.
Jimmy Kimmel, they sort of like, threaten them because they control communications aspect to it. But if you are sending a satellite up from the United States, then FCC is the one that has to give permission.
To govern the communication between the satellite and the Earth.
And any satellite that goes up, right? So they are the ones who actually say, okay, well, this satellite can go. So they had petitioned this company, Reflect Orbital, to send the first satellite up to test out their technology. There was opposition to it. I think that's when we talked about it a couple of months ago, and people did write to the FCC that this is a problem, and I'll come back to problems in a second. But just 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, they have gotten a green light. And so they are the first satellite, Arendelle 1, and this is a different company, but this is like Elon Musk. They're taking all of the science fiction names and science fiction stuff, completely ruining it. Mm-hmm. So here is Arendelle 1 from Lord of the Rings, or one of the Tolkien's stories from it. But it's expected to go up in later this year. And you go like, okay, all right, here is one satellite that's going up. Saman, stop, complaining about these things.
Stop complaining about these things.
Thank you, Monty. That's a good point. Except that they have plans to have more than 50,000 by the year 2035, which is less than 10 years from now. And the reason is because they are in low Earth orbit, so they would cross over a region. They cannot just hover one area.
Because everything's moving up there.
Because for that, you will need sort of like geostationary satellites, which are 22,000 miles away. So that's not going to work. This is low Earth orbit. And so a few hundred miles up. And so what you need is, okay, so it's only a few minutes, like 4 minutes, that they can stay onto one place. And then they will come back later and so on and so forth. So they need a constellation of these satellites if a place has to be lit for a longer period of time, and then they're going to use it for multiple satellites. So their goal is 50,000, more than 50,000 satellites of these light beams for the Earth by 2035. And the reason why it is alarming, of course, it's for astronomy. Astronomers are freaking out about this. In fact, there is a new study out by European Southern Observatory, ESO, just 2 weeks ago, which actually looked at the impact of this, and also of Elon Musk, who wants to launch 1 million data centers, for example, satellites in space. So,
in addition to his Starlink, which you can see all the time.
Right.
You can't go out stargazing at any time now and not see a satellite. I think any time I've done it in the last year.
A satellite, you'll see a bunch of satellites.
Exactly.
You'll
see at least one.
Anytime you look up, you are going to see a couple of satellites going up. So with this particular thing, the problem is, as they are themselves are saying, that it's going to be sort of like a full moon. Mm-hmm. And so the Reflect Orbital, again, like those beginning of those dystopian science fiction films. No, we are in conversations with astronomers, and of course we are going to avoid observatories. We are going to sort of coordinate with them. that's not how it's going to happen. As we know, once they have satellites up, first of all, is there going to be leakage? Yes. Are they going to be in those very specific range? No. And even if you are not in the beam of light, which, by the way, astronomers a little true, but also it's a little bit sort of like, I think I should say that what astronomers are saying is a danger is also true, that if you have, for example, a telescope, an amateur astronomer, and looking at sort of like night sky, and this beam comes in, and if it's the daylight beam, wow, I mean, that can damage your eyes in the same way as the sun can damage it, right?
All of a sudden the sun turns on while you're looking through a telescope.
But sure, that's a smaller region, and that is an exaggeration. But even if you are not in the beam, these satellites are still going to be as bright as a bright planet, like Venus. And just imagine if you have thousands or tens of thousands of them in the sky. Their estimate, so European Southern Observatory came up with a study in which they found that your sky overall is going to get 3 or 4 times brighter than it is. It is because of the scattered light of these individual sort of like, satellites, which are going to be like bright as a planet. And so that scattered light is going to raise the brightness level of the sky.
Which means we'll be able to see fewer stars, even just with our own human eyes, let alone from ground-based astronomy.
That is exactly right. And basically from a lot of places. Monty, you were saying, when you go and look out at the stars, you see satellites, right? Well, if the way things are going, we are seeing fewer and fewer stars. So even under the best circumstances, we see a few thousand stars at night. So, about 6,000, 7,000 stars from best sight. But now, I mean, we are lucky to be in Western Mass, which is darker. And so we can actually go to places where we can see more stars. But those numbers are also decreasing. But for many places now, and certainly for potentially if you have 50,000 of these guys out there, you will see more satellites than actual stars in the night sky. This is not an exaggeration because of the numbers they are putting in. And I'm just talking about this one company, Reflect Orbital. There are a lot of other companies that are doing other types of stuff, like, for example, data centers or Starlink satellites or other ones. So, but this is just about astronomy. And one misconception I want to remove. People say, because there is so much focus on James Webb Space Telescope or Hubble Space Telescope, they go like, why don't, it's great. This is another argument, put space telescopes. This doesn't work like that because there are only a few space telescopes. Those are very expensive. Very few people get to observe them. And in fact, the way the targets are picked of what James Webb Space Telescope, for example, is going to be spending its time, that science comes from ground-based telescopes. And the ground-based telescopes, you can actually build really big-size telescopes because we are on the ground and you don't have to launch them.
Right.
There is no substitute to ground-based astronomy. I mean, it is like, Monty, we talked about seeing the Odyssey on the real IMAX, right? And so somebody going and saying, you don't need other theaters because there are 25 IMAX theaters in the country. I mean, what's the problem? You get like, but we can't see a movie on the big screen. Yeah, but there are 25 IMAX theaters in the country.
Yeah, just drive to Providence.
That's exactly right. So that's the type of argument. So no, you cannot substitute ground-based astronomy with, you can just move into space. You cannot. And second thing is, which is, astronomy is a big concern, but I think even more important, it's the threat to diversity, biodiversity. Or ecosystem, and that is a lot of life, including, by the way, humans also, which have circadian rhythms, but also other life forms that live, that survive based upon these day-night cycles. Those are crucial for them. They are going to be disrupted as well. So apart from, and again, these things have already happened in cities. We know the issues that are with the cities, but now we are also trying to extend that to other places. And in fact, there is another petition now that is petitioning FCC to reverse its decision to give permission for the first satellite to go up to test it. And interestingly, in that particular petition, it's not just astronomers. So Dark Sky International is one of them. Earth Justice is another one. But so is American Bird Conservatory Conservation, because this is all connected together. We are messing with the world's ecosystem. And for what? And again, so this is one of those things. Do we really need it? Is there a demand for extended sunlight rather than, and this is the case unfortunately here, Silicon Valley, some tech bros, and yes, those are tech bros, they come up with an idea that, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we have daylight at night? And they have enough money to actually do that. And why do we have to worry about it? And this is where the sad part comes in the sense that there are so many problems. And this is another problem that we have to address. I'm interested, I'm involved in sort of like, thinking about the future settlements on the moon, which people, again, a lot of people don't know. This particular aspect also falls under the Outer Space Treaty because individual countries are the ones that authorize the launches of these kind of satellites. So it's the US, in our case, that is responsible. And if we look at it from that perspective, you go like, okay, well, there are other countries as well. What are they doing? Well, just as a perspective, right now, there are more than 16,000 active satellites. And a vast majority of them are like 13,000 are US satellites. Mm-hmm. Okay, so just as a reminder, again, there are a lot of satellites going up, right? So there are, and just as a comparison, in 2019, which is not that far back, right before the pandemic, by the way,
the good old days.
Good old days,
Before time.
So 7 years ago, there were 2,000 active satellites. 2,000 active satellites in 2019. Right now, we have 16,000 satellites. In fact, in 2021, just 1 year alone, 4,500 satellites were launched, whereas in 2019, there were 2,000 satellites in orbit. And out of those 16,000 satellites right now, 13,000 belong to a company or the military or other companies. 13,000 belong to the US. The next one, China, has 1,300. Russia, 1,300. So we are a big source of problem. And so when we say sort of like, and again, the requests for satellites, right now 16,000, but it is expected by 2035 there is a request for over 1 million. They're expecting about 1.7 million satellites in the sky. So this is not, again, a problem for far future. This is not a problem for, it's going to impact somebody else.
It's not like the sun is going to expand and eat the whole solar system in 1 billion years. This is in less than a decade.
And also a large fraction of that is coming from the US. So just like there is, I think, justified opposition to the data centers, this is another issue. And again, I hate to bring another issue that we need to worry about, but night sky is for everyone. What is happening to the night sky in this particular instance? In fact, even data centers, the ones that are in the US, impact the US. It impacts the climate change as well because of the fossil fuels that are involved in this. And some of these companies, US companies, also have data centers in other places. That's a whole other dimension to that, which is deeply problematic. But for the night sky, for these satellites, the large fraction of them are coming from the US, but they are not just going to be in the US skies. It's going to be all over the world, as it is right now, the low Earth orbit. So we need to first be aware of what is happening, because in order to oppose something, you must know what is the science behind it, what is actually happening. So next time somebody says, somebody has a crazy idea of having sort of like sunlight at night, isn't it cool? And your answer is, get away from me, and no, it's a terrible idea, and it's just no. Okay?